Hearty welcome to one and all. This is episode 162 of the Confessions of a Not So Dangerous Mind podcast. I'd like to thank you all for joining me on this late Saturday night into Sunday morning. If you're checking out this episode on the YouTube channel, haven't done so already, please click like, subscribe, comment, share, turn on those notifications. Or if you catch this episode on the audio platforms such as Spotify or iTunes, same general rule applies. Click like, subscribe, share, and turn on those notifications. So this is Late Night with Confessions of a Not So Dangerous Mind, and I just finished watching Late Night with the Devil, the new horror film from the Cairns brothers, who I was unfamiliar with until now. And wow, I'm suitably dazzled and impressed by what they were able to do. And man, I gotta tell you, I wasn't really that big a fan of David Dalstmachian until now, but he just fucking kills this movie. He's phenomenal in the lead role. So the film has elements of a lot of other found footage horror, and it has elements of a lot of conventional horror. And it even has significant moments of comedy. Pretty much all of it works. And it's a period piece. And even though it's limited, they got the period details right. They got the cadences right. The historical little tidbits of information about the Yankees having won the World Series in 1977. Throw a Reggie Jackson joke in there. And Johnny Carson was the king of late night. And Dalstmachian's main character of Jack Delroy is trying to become the king of late night. So the movie gives you a significant amount of backstory of this guy, Jack Delroy. And it seems like it's a lot of kind of sound and fury signifying nothing, but almost everything that is discussed pays off. And the movie was marketed, and it's actually still in theaters. I saw it on AMC Plus. It landed on AMC Plus the other day at Shudder. So you can do a free trial and then just cancel before you get charged. It just seems insane to go on Amazon Prime and pay $15 when you don't have to. I mean, they tell you how to do it, so just do it. And I know many people that subscribe to Shudder already, so there it goes. Or as Emperor Joseph said in Amadeus, well, there it is. There it is. Don't pay $15 if you don't have to. So it was marketed as found footage within that genre. Okay, but it's not, even that isn't a conventional found footage. It's a part of it, but it's not as big a part of it. This is not Paranormal Activity or the Blair Witch Project. And I don't want to say anything more because it'll spoil it. It's not the conventional found footage. I'll just say it this way, because a lot of people saw it as it happened. So call it found footage is a bit of a stretch. It's just more like footage, not really found footage. So this guy, Jack Delroy, was a radio host. He takes over this TV show, late night TV show, and he has a lot of success. He has an adoring wife who he is devoted to. He wants to be number one. He wants to be more than he currently is. And that's where you start to see references to other famous horror films begin to appear. And just off the top of my head, because I literally just finished watching the movie about 15 minutes ago, there are elements of The Wicker Man. There are elements of The Exorcist. There are elements of Rosemary's Baby. There are even elements of Ghostbusters 2. The sequence in that film where Peter Venkman is interviewing somebody who's talking about paranormal stuff, and he thinks the person is full of shit. There's a lot of references to other films. A character even says, the power of Christ compels you at one point, which if I was in a movie theater, even though it's like a scary moment, I would have been screaming. film sneaks up on you, as many great horror films do. And other than David Dalstmachian, I'm not really that familiar with anyone else in the cast, except there's a character called Carmichael Haig, or Carr, if you prefer. And I didn't really recognize the actor. I said, I think I know who this is, but it's not ringing a bell. The voice was familiar, and the actor presentation was familiar, and I didn't know who it was. And I just looked it up on the cast list. And it's the actor Ian Bliss, who, if we go back 2 decades, he kind of played a sort of a polarizing character in Matrix 2 and 3. He played the character of Bane, who he did a great job. One iteration of Agent Smith takes him over, and the actor Ian Bliss does what amounts to his impression of Hugo Weaving as Agent Smith. He's really good in this movie. The character comes on and you think that he's going to just be like a clown and a throwaway. He's actually really important to the story. He does a great job. They did it, the trappings of the late night TV show, before shit starts to go wrong and we're left wondering, okay, did this really happen? Did this really happen? What was TV and what was not TV? What is truth? What is fiction? What the fuck are we looking at? Is the audience in on it? Is the main character in on it? What the fuck is going on here? This is a movie where you're going to be scratching your head a lot, but not in confusion, more in a genuine sense of, I don't know what's happening here. I don't know who's right, who's wrong, if anyone. Which one of these people is a con artist, if any, and who isn't, if any. All of these things. So we start off with somebody who says he can commune with the dead. He goes by Christou. And he seems like a hack and a quack. But then he senses something and feels a connection. And then the story kind of develops from there. The interesting thing with this character is that he kind of reminded me of Whoopi Goldberg's character, Oda Mae, in Ghost, where she's basically a quack. She is a con artist, but then it turns out she's not really a con artist. She really has these very powerful extrasensory and otherworldly paranormal abilities. And we don't get that much of this character of Christou, other than when he begins to sense spirits, he seems shocked. And he begins to show physical symptoms and a physical manifestation of what's going on here. And he's not a major character, so we don't get the Whoopi Goldberg running commentary where she starts thinking she's crazy because a dead man is talking to me. But that's what it feels like, that this character maybe didn't know that he had any abilities whatsoever. And then suddenly, what the fuck is going on here? The main thrust, though, is, number one, Jack Delroy wants to get back near the top of the ratings heap. He never managed to overtake Carson. That's like a big part of what drives him. He has read this book called Conversations with the Devil. And he's familiar with the author of the book. And the author of the book has found this and cared for this young girl who was part of this cult, like a Jim Jones or a Waco, Texas, David Koresh, Branch Davidians, a cult in that ballpark. She was rescued, presumably before she was going to be sacrificed because reasons. That's where you get into the kind of Wicker Man Midsummer angle, with just, well, we have to sacrifice this person, or if this one is not a virgin, we can spare her, and if this one is, we'll kill her. And you start getting into this like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs territory. But he has them on the show, and it's a centerpiece. And the character of Carmichael, the Ian Bliss character, he's there as a counterpoint. He's supposed to be the voice of reason, even though he's presented as an antagonistic character. It's interesting. So I hadn't thought of this while watching the movie. Classic horror film. And in this instance, when I say classic, I don't mean necessarily great. I mean that it follows certain elements of the genre. The classic horror movie has 4 phases. It's called the complex discovery plot. Onset, discovery, confirmation, confrontation. So for example, movie Jaws. I don't really consider it a horror film, but a lot of people do. It's more of an adventure story, thriller. Onset is the girl at the beginning of the movie getting killed and someone finding the body. Onset. The finding of the body is discovery. There's a shark. There's a shark. We better close the beach. Man, we can't close the beach. It's tourist season. They find a shark. That's not the real shark. Yes, it is. We're good. We're all set here. That's not the real shark. Yeah, we're fine. We got it. Stop worrying. We're fine. Oops, we're not fine. Confrontation. Brody on the boat, with Quint, with Hooper. 4 phases. Complex discovery plot. The Carmichael character in this movie, he is the dissenting voice. He is the skeptic that doesn't believe any of the fuckery that we are witness to as we are watching the story unfold. He's a skeptic, but he's the angry skeptic, because the character of Jack Delroy, he doesn't really know what he's looking at, but he doesn't, certainly in the early stages, he's not saying, oh my God, this girl's possessed, or demonic possession is real. I'm going to get pea soup spit at me, or whatever. The character of Carmichael, I have to give you a little bit of spoiler. He's going to be the confirmation, because he spends the entire movie giving the middle finger to every bit of proof that is presented to him. This Christou character really did sense something with this mother and daughter that he spoke with. He knew stuff he couldn't have known. Bullshit. And then there are other points in the film. Charlatan, stage trickery, camera trickery, smoke and mirrors. But then there's a moment where he can no longer explain anything away. Now, maybe or maybe not, there is no confrontation in this movie. But having the first three is enough. See, just because a horror film doesn't necessarily fulfill all 4 pieces of the complex discovery plot, it doesn't mean it isn't a horror film. But a classic horror film has all 4. And even a film like Predator, the Arnold Schwarzenegger film, which mostly takes place in the daylight and features jacked guys. Normally it's smaller people, helpless people who have no means with which to defend themselves. But Predator, onset, alien comes to Earth, kills a couple of people, kills a member of Arnold's team. What happened to Hawkins? Discover his body. The Carl Weathers character in Predator, he's the skeptic. Like the character of Carmichael in Late Night with the Devil, he always has an answer. There's a couple of guys running around there, we gotta take them down. There's no fucking lizard. There's no spacemen. There's no alien. What the fuck is wrong with you people? I don't believe in spacemen. I don't even believe in lizards, but whatever. Whether or not there is actual means to confront whatever it is that's going on, this is still a horror film. Fulfilling the first 3 is enough. Hey, Blair Witch Project is a horror film. It doesn't fulfill really any of those. I don't know that it even has one. I guess it's all onset. Because they don't really discover anything. related to the witch. Maybe a couple of things. When they have slime, they find slime on Josh's packet, his pack. Slime all over the place. There's no confirmation, there's no confrontation. They have no means to confirm anything because there's no witch as far as they can see. They keep walking in one direction, but somehow they don't get anywhere. What's there to confirm? And what's there to confront? Nothing. It's still a horror movie. But it's not, according to the philosophy of horror, it's not a classic horror narrative because it doesn't do all those things. It doesn't matter. There are plenty of horror movies that fulfill all four of those, and they're POSs. Late Night with the Devil hits the first three, and I don't really think that it gets to the fourth. I don't think, if there's a confrontation, I'm not going to give anything away, but it's not a real confrontation. It isn't what you would expect of, let's say, one character squaring off. Arnold Schwarzenegger at the End of Days literally fighting Satan, as played by Gabriel Byrne. Kind of absurd. That was a confrontation, though. And the confirmation was, I don't believe in any of this hooey. Okay, now I do. Dalstmachian is so compelling. Even though his character isn't really likable, we understand what motivates him. But we can't really, there are a lot of points in the movie where we don't identify with him, we really can't. But there's something, maybe because he has this sort of look, he has a look where we want to root for him. So we give him more latitude than we might otherwise. If it were an actor that we sort of instinctively, or an actor that prior identification is, he's cold, he's unfeeling. Michael Douglas made a career out of playing protagonists who weren't really that likable. This is an unlikable protagonist played by a likable actor, and we want to like him. And he's perfectly cast. And we see why he wants to do what he does. So, for example, in Rosemary's Baby, a movie that, as I said, this has significant parallels to, John Cassavetes' character, the husband to Mia Farrow, Guy, he's pretty much unsympathetic for 80% of the film. He takes her for granted, meaning Mia Farrow as Rosemary, and he just seemingly throws her under the bus just because. Even if there are certain parallels to what the character of Jack Delroy does in the world of this film and what the character of Guy does in Rosemary's Baby, I have a much worse feeling. I think Guy really sucks. He's just an asshole. I feel like Jack had his heart in the right place. He's not a bad person. He's made a couple of decisions that were not cool. Now, if you know exactly what the outcome of those decisions were going to be and do them anyway, and you hurt people you love, and you knew you were going to, that's different. But this movie doesn't really go there. It doesn't hit that particular point. And Rosemary's Baby doesn't really do that either, but we get enough to indicate that Guy may know exactly what he's doing, and he's okay with it, even though his bride, who he seems to love, will be devastated and broken probably beyond repair and put in a situation of pure horror just because he wanted to make a few extra shekels, I guess. I don't know. But I really don't want to spoil anymore. This film has so many surprises and so many great practical effects. So many great practical effects. Camera trickery, what almost appear to be magic tricks on screen, and special effects that they work. They feel like the kind of effects we would see in the 70s. If they used green screen, I know there was some controversy because there were a couple of images that were AI, and a lot of people were upset about that. If I hadn't been tipped off, I wouldn't have known it. Nothing seemed off or weird or like freaky looking. The film currently sits at an incredible, especially for a horror movie, 97% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. That's an insane score. that's as good of a score for a horror movie. I remember when Get Out, which Get Out is technically a horror film, but it's not supernatural. Although it has some mysticism, now that I think about it, some elements of the occult. So maybe by that logic, it is a horror film. This feels more like a horror film than Get Out, even though there's a lot of comedy and a lot of funny moments. I mean, I was cracking up. A lot of moments in the first half of this movie are really funny. Then it kind of, the humor drains away. But yeah, it's late at night. This is a perfect movie to watch late at night. You know, keep your loved ones close and turn all the lights out, batten down the hatches. And I'll vouch for it. I would be shocked if you see this movie and don't walk away saying, wow. Because it is almost a perfect combination of the found footage genre and the kind of demonic possession occult. They managed to balance the scales and make it funny. It's really difficult to do. And I can see why critics got excited as soon as it hit the film festival circuit last year. I remember, I want to say as far back as the early fall, people were buzzing about this and saying, you got to see this movie. But then it didn't open here in the States until I think early March. And only as recently as 2 days ago did it actually hit streaming, where we have the opportunity to check it out from the comfort of our own home. We turn out all the lights, do whatever we want. But at least we can stream it at home now. If we don't feel like going out to the theater. I know it's playing near my old hometown of Massapequa. It's playing at the Seaford Cinemas on Merrick Road right now. And it didn't make that much money. It wasn't a big budget. And I know that the studio gets a piece anytime somebody buys a stream of the film, ancillary rights. So the original Candyman from 2020, 2021 did really well when it hit streaming and people were buying $20 a pop. Same with Top Gun Maverick, which made like over $1 billion at the box office. And then it made a shit ton more when it first hit streaming. People didn't want to wait the extra month or whatever it was because Paramount Plus was going to stream it as part of their regular subscription. People just said, fuck it, bought it, and it made even more money. You got how many 100,000 people paying $20? It adds up. It's not insignificant. I mean, there are movies with $10 million budgets that only end up making, what, 3 or 4 million at the box office? $20 a clip. 3, 4, 500,000 people make a purchase. That's how you do it. All about the do-re-mi. So I don't know that I would, because my favorite found footage film is the Blair Witch Project. I think most found footage horror films suck. I did not think Paranormal Activity, the first one was okay. But in general, I'm not really into the genre. And I didn't think the Blair Witch follow-ups were any good. They're supposedly doing like a reimagining next year. I think it's going to be terrible. But that's to me the gold standard of found footage films. This is so much different, it's difficult to compare. I will say the Blair Witch Project is, for me, at least a top 10, maybe a top 5 favorite horror movies. And I'd have to think on Late Night with the Devil a little bit longer, but I'm pretty sure this is in my top 10. That is how much I was really dazzled by what I saw. And I recommend it to anyone who is a fan of the horror genre in general, but specifically if you love found footage, do it. And if you're into The Exorcist, if you like movies that deal with the occult, hell, even Angel Heart from a completely different angle, but dealing with the occult and the devil and demonic possession, just from an entirely different angle. If you're into those kinds of movies, this is a must-see. Late Night with the Devil, starring David Dalstmachian. I keep fucking up his name. David Dalstmachian, sorry. And Ian Bliss, among others. A really terrific horror film. Oh, and directed by the Cairns brothers. I'm sorry. Let me give you their names. Cameron and Colin Cairns. As I said, completely unknown to me before this, and I am now going to be on the lookout for whatever it is that they do next. because they did a fantastic job. The story was great, the backstory, the moments of narration, really, really well done. And they made what appeared to be a pretty expensive looking film on a very limited budget. And they did a great job. Late Night with the Devil, directed by the Cairns brothers, starring David Dalstmachian, Ian Bliss, and others. Streaming on AMC Plus for free, Shudder, and available to purchase on Amazon Prime. And I think you can rent it through YouTube, but whatever you do, the movie is worth it. By all means, see it as soon as possible. And if you think it sucks, you light me up in the comments for leading you astray. It's perfectly okay. That's what we're here for, right? With that, this has been episode 162 of the Confessions of a Not So Dangerous Mind podcast. I'd like to thank you all for joining me at this late night with hopefully not the devil, but the Late Night with the Devil episode right after watching it. If you caught this episode on the YouTube channel, enjoyed it, haven't done so already, please click like, subscribe, comment, share, turn on those notifications. Or if you check out this episode on the audio platforms such as Spotify or iTunes, same general rule applies. Click like, subscribe, share, turn on those notifications. I'll be back with episode 163 real soon. Till then.